Welcome in, everybody. FA Nation, so good to have you back. It's Ryan Hallam with you once again for another edition of FA Sports Talk Monday edition. And with me this week is my good friend, James Babyface Grande. Buddy, how you doing today? You getting ready for this final Monday night game of the 2020 season?
I'm good, Ryan, and happy to be here. It took 16 weeks to finally make it, but here we are. Yeah, I mean, final Monday night. I wish it was a little bit more exciting, but we do have the Bills on the docket, and they've been honestly one of the more fun teams to watch. Unfortunately, with all this fun, we haven't gotten to see enough of their fans this year. I think that's been lost in the shuffle, like considering how good the offense have been. I would have loved to see all the tables that have been destroyed this year. But nevertheless, yeah, I'm happy to be here and excited to talk Monday night.
Yeah, it's one side. The Bills side has some good fantasy relevance. The Patriots, on the other hand, it's been a struggle offensively, to say the very least. Cam Newton, I believe, still has 5 passing touchdowns the entire season. I know he's run a bunch in, but this offense is, man, ugly at most of the time. I think is as nice as I could possibly be.
I mean, that was putting it nicely because when your quarterback has 5 passing touchdowns, I mean, we just saw Josh Allen have 5 touchdowns literally last week. So he eclipsed or he tied Cam's passing touchdowns just last week. So yeah, it's ugly, ugly, ugly. And you know what though? Anything can happen, and Belichick's gonna scheme something up for tonight. Even though he doesn't have Gilmore, he doesn't have really anybody like he hasn't had all years due to all the COVID sit-outs on his defense. So, but salute to Monday Night Football for the year. I think they actually had a pretty good. I like the crew this year.
Yes, much better than last year.
Yeah, much better. And I hope they bring Greasy and the boys back for next year as well.
Further proof, as you said, that anything can happen. I sat in this chair 1 week ago today with John and Pemba, and we sat here and told you to load your lineup with Steelers. And then the Bengals came out and had that game last week. So truly, anything can happen. But, we like to do a few different things on Monday to get people ready for the game. We like to look at the game from a betting perspective, a DFS perspective, and, of course, some props, too. So let's take a look. Let's get started with the Bills are -7 favorites tonight. How you feeling about that one? You got a feel? You'd kind of stay away from it, think that's about right? Where do you think that with the Bills on a 7-point spread?
So they've actually been really good against the spread this year. They're 9-5 against the spread. So I think Buffalo could blow them out, and I don't think that's really shocking or breaking news here. I do actually think that they're going to cover the 7 points, or I think they could win this game by 2 touchdowns. So they're 9-5 against the spread, and that's the second best in the league in that category. So I'm going to go Buffalo -7. I don't think the Patriots can really withstand Buffalo. Whether it's through the air or on the ground, they're going to give up points tonight.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And the loss of Stephon Gilmore is certainly not going to help with Stephon Diggs out there as one of the top receivers in the league. J.C. Jackson is a fine, second cornerback, but I think Diggs is definitely going to get his. He did the first matchup. So I think, obviously losing your top corner, one of the top ones in the league, is certainly going to help the Patriots, hurt the Patriots. And their rush defense has been embarrassing all season long. So I agree with you. I think between Allen with his arm and his legs, I think we might see a little Zach Moss tonight as well. So I agree with you. The over-under sits at 46.5. I think we're together and we don't expect a lot of offense from the Patriots. So can the Bills do enough to get that 46.5 number? What do you think?
So again, just looking at things, and I know something has to give, right? The Patriots are 3-12 hitting the under, and the Bills are 9-4-1 hitting the over. So there has to be some sort of movement here. I think there's enough here to get the over, and I think it's going to come from just Buffalo and then the New England kicking game. Honestly, I think Nick Folk can kick enough times this game where Buffalo scores enough points. I'm going to take the over, barely over. But I'm going to go with Buffalo. 69% of the games this year over. It's the third best in the NFL. So maybe a little surprising to many because I don't think people will take the Patriots and Bills over 47, but I'm going to go over.
I'm really on the fence. I've been thinking about this all afternoon to try to come up with a good answer for this. I think I'm going to come a little on the under. I really don't know how many points the Patriots are going to score. I know the Bills' defense hasn't been what it was quite last year, but it has still been fairly strong. And after Jacoby Myers, Damiere Byrd has an okay game every once in a while. Harry catches a touchdown here and there. I wish they had a good tight end because that's where the Bills are really vulnerable against the tight end. And the Patriots just kind of have a band of merry men and no one that really steps up. So 20, if it was finished 27-14, would I be shocked somewhere around there? I agree. I think it's going to get pretty close. I'm gonna go contrarian to you just for the fun of the stream and pick the under. But I do think it's going to fall in that 44 to 48 range.
And to your point about the tight end, I think Buffalo just has really struggled with the slot in general. So if we could see a scenario where Jacoby Myers is streaking down the field or just running crossing routes all night and getting into territory enough for Cam to run a couple in, because I think that's really the only chance New England has to move the football. So I do think there is some life on this New England's offense, and it's primarily because the Buffalo defense isn't what it was last year.
Agreed. And so we move on to DFS. The showdown slates, we all play them. We all love them. It's an opportunity to get a little extra skin in the game, but we all know how much of a crapshoot they are, a little bit of fun. So, but, given the fact that everyone plays them and we now have an article every week on Fantasy Alarm, I honestly didn't check to see if it's out yet for today, but if it's not, I'm sure it will be in the very near future. The big spot is always the captain spot, James. That's where your bread is buttered. If you're going to win, you got to hit it just right there. So why don't you give me one or two options that you like tonight for that 1.5 points?
I mean, I think the obviously high-owned plays are going to be Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. I don't think that's, again, we're not like surprised like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs high ownership. I'll go with Zach Moss here as my sneaky captain. He's out-touched Singletary in 2 straight games. He's played more snaps than him in 5 of 7 games, one of which he got hurt, so we don't really know the true outcome of one of those 2 games. And we love to see the 13-plus carries, and it's something you alluded to earlier when you were talking about the New England run defense. They are dead last in DVOA against the run. They're dead last. There's nobody worse than them right now. So I don't really see Buffalo struggling on the ground. I think this could be a game from the get that we see Moss and Singletary just explode. And we know Singletary has the more explosive playmaking ability. We've seen it a couple times recently, i.e. last week against Denver. But I do think Zach Moss could sneak in for 2 touchdowns. And Ryan, what are we looking for on Showdown? We need all the touchdowns, right? We really can't not have the touchdowns on the Showdown slate. And I think Moss can give us, we've seen it earlier. So I think Zach Moss is my lower owned captain that I would be willing to roll with.
I think that's a great pick. I know he had 2 touchdowns the first time they played the Patriots, right. And I agree with you that the ownership percentage is going to be way below Allen and Diggs, who are probably going to be the top 2 choices. So it's an awesome way to differentiate yourself from the pack, as well as to really take advantage of the other team's weaknesses, which is, like we both said, the Bills against the run. And if you're not paying close attention every week, maybe you aren't aware of just how bad New England is against the run. They were a great defense last year. Some people just kind of carry that over in their head. Right. But between opt-outs and injuries and just not being what they were last year, it's been shockingly bad against the run. I think there's a way to sneak the Bills defense into your captain spot. John and I spoke about this last week with the Steelers. You kind of get that bump right off the bat because, you get the 10 points for the shutout and then the bump for the 1.5. Cam has not exactly proven to be the most careful with the ball. If he, had a couple turnovers tonight, I don't think anyone would be surprised there. Buffalo, opportunistic defense, maybe scoring a touchdown would be huge for the captain spot. I like your pick, Moss, a little bit better. But that defense in the captain spot is always a sneaky way to save yourself a bunch of money. That way you can work Allen and Diggs into your lineup as well. We pretty much covered everyone that I had in my little lineup. At the Bills, I had Moss, Allen, Diggs, Jacoby Myers, who I think is really the only Patriot that you can trust in tonight's slate. And then you brought up Nick Folk, who's honestly been fantastic this year. New England doesn't score a lot, but they get in the field goal range a decent amount. And 3 field goals is 9 points, which is, you might struggle to get that out of Jacoby Myers or some of these other guys. So I think Folk is definitely in play. Anyone else that you like that maybe you can sneak into some lineups?
I guess I'm kind of waiting. I mean, we'll know by 4 p.m. if John Brown's going to be activated. I haven't seen anything official on John Brown, but I mean, he's 2.8K, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about a guy who has had multiple like monster outings. This year, we've seen it in the past. It's been a continuance. As my son is screaming in the background, just yelling as at the top of his lungs. He doesn't like John Brown. He does not like John Brown if John Brown's activated. No, but I mean, 2.8K, like, he's as great as Cole Beasley has been. We see how much Cole Beasley suffers when John Brown is on the field, and that's because John Brown is looked at more by Josh Allen than Beasley is. So, I mean, 2.8K for a solidified wide receiver 2. I know he could be limited. I know, like, he's coming off IR, but I don't think he would be activated if he wasn't healthy enough to play a really good chunk of snaps. So we have an hour or a little less than an hour to find out if he's going to be activated from IR. So that would be probably the one other route I'd go. And just like circling back quickly to their Bills defensive call, I love that. They've scored twice in the last 2 weeks too. So, third time's a charm. I think they could get a third touchdown here. And they're like top 10 in sacks. They're top 10 in takeaways. They're top 10 in pretty much every like stat that matters for defensive fantasy purposes. I don't think they've really been a great defense overall, but for fantasy, they have been quite good, especially lately. So I do love your Bills call, but I do think John Brown's activated. I think we can go there as a sneaky little contrarian play.
I definitely like that. There's a little bit of a risk. Like you said, he hasn't played in quite a while. But again, the Bills are going to the playoffs, so they're not going to be bringing this guy back unless he's ready to go. Right. So I definitely agree there. And again, with Gilmore out, and that puts Jackson on Diggs, and that puts probably Jason McCourty on John Brown. And that's certainly a matchup that the Bills can take advantage of. And I was surprised at that salary myself when I saw it. I think we kind of all expect him to be activated, and I think we kind of expected it all week. So I figured he was going to be a little higher than that. So definitely, there's a little danger with the injury, but Diggs certainly looks like a great call there. So let's move on to the props. That's one that I've kind of really dug into this year more than years past, and I really enjoy it. And I've been playing a lot on Monkey Knife Fight lately, having pretty good success. So they have a few that I like here. They always have that five bet parlay there. So I want to go through each one of those. It pays you 20 times. You put $2 down, you have a shot at winning $40. So you got to get 5 props, but it's always fun to have something like that going. So the first one is Josh Allen, 279.5 passing yards. I think he's got that in the bag. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going over. He's done it 9 times already this year. Let's make it 10. I think he probably goes over 300 here.
I agree. Cam Newton over under 169.5.
God.
That's a starting. It's a far cry from Tom Brady last year.
Oh God.
Here's where we are, 169.5. And you know what? It's a question, Grande.
It's
I don't
a
know
question.
if you're gonna do it. That's the funnier part. We laugh at the number and then we laugh again. Like, probably not.
He's literally done it once in 4 games. So I mean,
he's gone under 100 how many times?
Like, what happened, man? What freaking happened?
I guess he's had a lot of injuries just piled up over the year. Didn't play at all last year, and no preseason. But you think by week 16, some familiarity would set in. I know he's got crappy receivers, but this is bad. So are you going under with this one?
I'm going under.
Yeah, me too. Stephon Diggs, 87.5. Hit that the first time. No Stephon Gilmore. Your thoughts?
Easy.
Easy.
I think this is the easiest of the five. I think this is the easiest of the five. The guy has been, I mean, he's been probably the best receiver in top three receiver in football. Like in real life football, I mean, we're talking about just the volume is just off the charts. It's not fair. So I think easy over.
He's definitely the most targeted guy this year, and I believe he's leading in receptions as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this one I think is going to come back to your John Brown point. Cole Beasley over under 4.5 receptions. When Brown's been in there, Beasley's consistently been under that number.
I wish this was I want to push 4.5. I want to he catches his fifth pass, but he fumbles it, and it's down to 4.5. I'm going to go 5 receptions. I think he just gets over because I do, as much as I like Brown, and I think Brown could, possibly, 4 for 30 and a touchdown. And at 2.8K, that crushes on your showdown slates. But I do think he's limited if he plays. So I'll go over Beasley 4.5, but not by much.
Last, James White, 3.5 receptions. I don't even... I don't even know what to say anymore.
I mean, James White has looked horrible this year. I don't know if maybe that's just, due to Cam looking horrible and the Patriots looking horrible, overall, but it wouldn't shock me if he was cut this offseason. I'm going to go under 3.5. Even though they're probably playing from behind, I mean, they've been playing from behind a lot this year, and that really hasn't mattered for James White.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. It's just the offense is just terrible. It goes back to wanting the Bills in the captain seat in the DFS. It's just it just doesn't even look like NFL football most of the time, and it's really bad to watch. And I hope Josh Allen makes this game exciting enough, that we're going to enjoy it. But it's gotten almost to the point where I feel bad for Cam. Maybe even Belichick, but he won so much that no one really feels bad for him.
But don't feel bad. Do not put that into the universe and let Patriots fans you know what? Yeah, other people feel bad for us, so we're fine. No. Don't give them that satisfaction, Ryan, please.
They won enough.
They won plenty. No one feels bad for my Yankees. We haven't won since 2009. Nobody.
Well, I mean, your over-under is in 169.5 passing yards right now. I mean,
that's fair.
They're still in the ALCS. I mean,
that's fair. You're not wrong there.
So, switching gears, let's do some a little recap of yesterday. I think we tied a nice little bow up on this Monday night game. Come on, Bills, make it exciting because the Patriots probably aren't going to do that much. But let's talk about Tom Brady, and oh boy, that was quite a half. 4 touchdowns in the first half, over 300 yards. You'd think that, and that was coming off that game against the Vikings where they didn't look all that great. I think it's just the Lions are that bad. They're just their defense gets worse and worse. But Tampa Bay gets Atlanta to finish out the season, so it looks like Tom Brady is going off on an enormous hot streak into the playoffs.
Yeah, except the week that I played you in the Fantasy Alarm championship and he didn't go off. So, I'm just a little sour, but it's cool. I think Brady and the Bucs in general needed this because the last, I would say, just kind of the whole second half of this year, they've played one good half a game, and they need to put it all together going into the postseason. This is a team that earlier in the stage was saying this was the best team in the NFC, and they got smoked by the Saints, and everyone kind of pumped the brakes whoa, that was not expected. This was one of the best offensive units, one of the best defensive units. So I think they looked great. And yes, the Lions are bad, but they needed that game. Even Blaine Gabbert looked like, oh crap, maybe Blaine Gabbert's going to come alive and revitalize his career. But no, that's just how bad the Lions were. But I mean, they did this without Rojo, who's clearly leaps and bounds better than Leonard Fournette at this stage. And I don't think that's even a debate anymore. I think from just Tom's, morale. They finally put together a complete game, and I think that they're going to carry this into Atlanta and carry that into the postseason. And it was a sight to see because everybody ate, man. Everybody ate.
Yeah, and those two, Gronk only had 2 catches, but they were both touchdowns. That first one was very nice, a little over the shoulder grab, and Mike Evans finally was getting touchdowns past the 3-yard line, as he was definitely the lead receiver of that game, and you kind of got to like him. I think the best of the three heading into Week 17 and the playoffs. Here's another situation. Let's get your opinion on it. Although it seems like it's kind of already settled for this week, and that's Miami, who. A miracle comeback at the end of that game. They bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick. He gets the short pass to Gaskin, who turns into a long touchdown. Comes back the answer, and then Fitzpatrick somehow, with a paw on his face, not looking, delivers an absolute dime down the field to set up a game-winning field goal. They're going to start Tua again this week. I don't know why, but. I think the fantasy, you just can you play some Dolphins and hope Fitzpatrick comes in the second half because Tua's, when the offense, when he's in there, it's just in quicksand.
I mean, it's not the worst matchup, right, against Buffalo. I do think that there is some potential upside for Miami. Plus, it's a very meaningful game, obviously, for their playoff hopes. So, like, they're going to play their guys. But, like, when you have the Mariano Rivera of football and, your starter can't get past the 5th inning, like, you're going to turn to him. So I guess, like, if you're playing a showdown, like, if you're playing this game from a showdown perspective, like, Fitzpatrick wouldn't be the craziest play. Like when somebody played Marcus Mariota a couple weeks ago and won $1 million because, everyone knew Derek Carr was going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a complete different situation where if Tua sucks, Brian Flores is not afraid to go to Fitzpatrick. He should be starting. If you want to be honest, if we're being honest, like, Fitzpatrick should be starting this game with their playoff lives at stake. So, but they're gonna go to Tua. You play the running game, I think, in DFS or whoever has a Week 17 championship. I'm sorry for you if you do, because that sucks. But I think you play the running game. You probably play Gesicki because he's been really good. But I don't, you can't trust the quarterbacks. But if you're doing, like, a showdown for whatever reason of this game, like, if you decide, yeah, I love Miami, I want to play showdown, then maybe you play Fitzpatrick. But I don't think you could trust Tua.
Yeah, I don't know why. I never understood why they made the switch in the first place. I understand you took them, 4th overall, and you wanted. But they've been in this from the beginning of the season, Miami. I've never seen a team in a playoffs drive switch to the rookie quarterback, especially when Fitzpatrick was playing so well. And if they miss the playoffs, it's their own damn fault for doing this, and this is stupid, and I understand the future. And, I like Tua. I like that he's careful with the ball. You don't see him doing a lot of stupid things. But, man, the window in the NFL, opens and closes pretty quickly, and it's almost like they're throwing this away. And if they happen to win this game and get in the playoffs, they gotta put Fitzpatrick in there. I don't know that they will, but I think they'd be stupid to go in the playoffs with a rookie who's shown to be okay, but that's about it.
I mean, I just like you said, what was the reason you switched? He won 3 games in a row before that bye week. I never understood it. I don't understand it. And it seems like even if they do, Ryan, if they go into the playoffs, and they're gonna start Tua. I don't know. They're just gonna start him, and then they have Mariano with a beard coming in at the end of the game. So that's just the approach, and Brian Flores seems comfortable just sticking to it.
A guy that I loved coming into the season was the quarterback of your team, Daniel Jones. I thought he was going to come in. I thought he was going to have, like, this monster season. Got off to a really rough start. It's like, okay, it's a tough schedule. They played the first 5 games were 5 really tough defenses. And then it didn't get any better. I live in New York, so I listen to New York sports radio a little bit. I'm in the car. I don't feel like there's a call for any change in the future. I believe that Jones will still be their quarterback next year. Hopefully, they improve the offensive line a little bit more. These guys mature, kids that they brought in. But how confident are you feeling with Daniel Jones? And I think in fantasy next year, he's like a low, 20th quarterback off the board, somewhere along those lines. It really hasn't been the season for Jones that I think anyone was expecting.
Do you want to hear an all-time bad take that I'll live up to right now?
Sure.
Before the year, Howard and I did a stream, and we were talking about the Giants, and I went on record saying that I didn't see a difference between Daniel Jones' ceiling this year and Josh Allen's ceiling this year, considering just Josh Allen's deficiencies apparent last year with his accuracy. They were both good running quarterbacks. We saw that with Jones a lot last year, and we've obviously seen it this year. Jones had all these weapons. They drafted 3 offensive linemen. They really retooled the offense around Jones. There was going to be Saquon who was going to catch 100 passes. Clearly, I took a misstep there because they are slightly different quarterbacks. I think Jones is still the guy. If you go look at the offensive line ratings on PFF, not a single top 25 offensive lineman. Our left guard is actually the worst rated left guard in PFF. Andrew Thomas is 66th out of 83, and he was the 4th overall pick, who many thought was the 4th best tackle in the draft. There's clear deficiencies. We don't have a single receiver averaging 50 yards a game. One of our starting receivers was held out because he wanted more targets. This offense first off, it needs a number 1 receiver because Darius Slayton is not that guy. He's dropped a lot of balls. He's a very good deep threat, but we haven't even seen that in the last handful of games. Sterling Shepard is a very good slot receiver when healthy, but your slot receiver is not your number 1 guy. And they need to address, again, the offensive line, which is good in run protection. I will grant the Giants' offensive line, they have been very good in run protection, but they cannot. He was sacked 3 times yesterday under 2 seconds. Yes, Daniel Jones has a problem sometimes of holding on to the ball, but when you're sacked under 2 seconds, you're not even fully dropped back in under 2 seconds. So there's nothing he can even do in that situation. I still don't think he's fully healthy. He's not running at all, which has obviously been a big, part of his game. So we'll see. Next year he should open as the quarterback. We should have full confidence in him as the quarterback. But they need to get him a weapon. They need to get him an established receiver, Allen Robinson or someone of that caliber. Just anybody that is not anybody that can catch the ball and is established, 1,000-yard receiver. Please just get us a pass catcher. I'm tired of watching Evan Ingram get 10 targets a game because he's going to drop multiple a game. So, Daniel Jones should enter the year. But in terms of fantasy, I think you were being modest high 20s. He is a very low-end QB2 going into the year, just unless they address these offensive deficiencies.
Yeah, losing Barkley certainly didn't help.
Right.
Wayne Gallman has been nice at times. Devonta Freeman was never going to be a thing. So that certainly isn't helping. And like you said, the weapons around him certainly aren't either. The silver lining is that the turnovers seem to have stopped recently. Right. I think, he's only had, 1 in the last 4 or 5 games. So that is a positive because that really was a problem last year and a big problem at the beginning of this year too, was just giving the ball away to the other team. So hopefully he's reined that in. And I think that's step 1 of getting back into some sort of fantasy relevance. Getting some weapons certainly is too. But losing Barkley, like you said, a guy who could have caught 80 passes, that certainly will hurt you as well. Last thing, I was going to talk about Alvin Kamara, but geez, he's been great all season long. So the 6 touchdowns, while fun, isn't really a hot button topic. But the poor Rams, dear God. You lose Cam Akers a couple weeks ago. Jared Goff breaks his finger. Darrell Henderson has a high ankle sprain. How could you just limp to the playoffs if they even make it? We'll see. To lose their starting quarterback, now 2 running backs. Their starting quarterback, John Wolford, comes from the AAF, has yet to take a snap in the NFL, and he is going to play in a do-or-die game for the Rams this coming week against the Cardinals. So load up your Cardinal DFS for those contests this week. But The team, I don't know that any team prepared worse for a quarterback injury than the Rams, and here they get one on week 17.
I was literally just thinking, if you're a GM in any sport, like, but especially when you have a quarterback, like, there is always the chance they get hurt. You don't back them up with anyone than John Wolford, or like, you know, like we saw Ben DiNucci play in football this year. Like, I know he was the third string, but still, like, there's not been better quarterbacks than these guys somewhere. Like, Jameis Winston's a third string quarterback right now. You're telling me, like, if you're the Rams, you couldn't have, like, gone out and sniped Jameis Winston when the Saints already had two quarterbacks? I don't know, man. This is bad. And like you said, you load up on Arizona in DFS, their defense. You load up on Arizona really any which way you look at it, because this Rams team is not moving the football, Ryan. They're not. They're not moving the ball.
It's really rolling the dice and playing Russian roulette, and Sean McVay found the chamber with the bullet in it in week 16 for sure. They not only couldn't move the ball against the Seahawks, but then to lose two more stars. I mean, Malcolm Brown will be okay. When asked to run more than 5 or 6 times this year, he's been okay. But the defense is going to have no reason to play pass defense at all. I think Patrick Peterson and Budda Baker can just be back to themselves and take care of everything else and just put as many guys in the box as they can. So while Brown, I saw something, he'll be a popular waiver target for week 17. Like, why? Right. The defense is just going to be in his pocket all afternoon. So Brown is okay, but I don't anticipate maybe more than 40, 50 yards for him.
Yeah, I mean, good old Malcolm Brown was great week 1, and he was everyone's waiver darling all the way back in week 1. But, like, I don't know, for 2 years now, he's had like one good game, and then it's just been irrelevance. And I don't think if you are playing in a week 17 championship, like, is your season going to be contingent on Malcolm Brown with John Wolford as his starter? Like, no, they're going to face 8-man boxes literally the entire game. So I don't even have any interest in like any DFS format for Malcolm Brown either. So
too much risk there. So this is it, man. This is it for Monday Night Football. We'll put a nice little bow on that, and also 2020, as we are now just a few days away from 2021. I think we can all be pretty happy to put this year behind us. But bring in the new year with the family, James. Right now, we're having all packages and guides 40% off with promo code 2021. That's baseball. Get in on the early bird there. You and all the great guys on the NBA. We have NHL coverage. We have esports with Sean Mitchell, and that's just starting to blow up. Man, everyone, I love seeing week after week of people posting on Twitter with their wins. And that really makes everything worthwhile. And this is your best chance, 40% off. Gee, we're giving it away. All your hard work on NBA, we're just giving it away.
Yeah, thanks, FA. I'm just kidding. Hey, man, FA Nation deserves it. We do it for you guys as much as we want to see green into our pockets. It's all about you guys, and that's what the content we're here providing is all for you. So cheers to another great year at Fantasy Alarm, and cheers to 100 more.
There you go. All right, for James Grande, this is Ryan Hallam signing off. Thank you for joining us. Another edition of Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. Of course, subscribe to us on the YouTube channel as well, and we will be back with you next week.